versus Saxton Hale is now an official part of Team Fortress 2. I still can't believe I get to say this. 13 years since I made the original version, and after 7 months of collective hard work to make this new iteration happen, you can finally play versus Saxton Hale by just queuing in casual. Isn't that nice? Thanks to everyone for voting on the workshop, and credits to the team behind this new iteration. And of course, to Valve for accepting the thing. As I've said, this new VSH iteration took us 7 months to develop, with me doing the heavy lifting on programming and game design. If you like my work, TF2 or otherwise, please consider supporting me on Boosty. It's like Patreon but allows to withdraw money from where I live. You can also buy the map stamps and strange filters, the proceeds from which get split between the contributors listed on that particular map. While not the best way to support me in particular, my share is less than you would think, it's a good way to support a specific map and the crew as a whole. With VSH being finally done, but not really, we are working on VSH maps for Halloween, I can finally return to making videos. What videos? VSH devlogs, for example. Let's do one right now. You shouldn't be able to respawn in versus Saxton Hale. A simple option would be to set the respawn time to 999999, which I did. But if a player would join mid-round, the game would allow them to spawn regardless. And if you die, the game tells you that you will respawn in over 100 seconds. The real number is much larger than that, the game simply displays only the first 3 digits. While it's functional, we were striving to make it look as official as possible, so I wasn't satisfied. I tried to enable the arena logic, which doesn't just prevent people from respawning, but also comes with a team selection UI that serves VSH better than the normal one. It also comes with the round summary screen that displays damage and healing. Enabling arena, however, has caused issues I couldn't solve in time, like players being forced to spectate a whole round, or getting kicked for idling despite simply being dead. Trying to change the console variables didn't help, so I had to abandon the idea. Our last option is sudden death. Except it doesn't work either. The respawn timer works as usual, despite the message saying that we cannot respawn during sudden death. While it prevents you from accidentally dying from changing class, if you have that option enabled, that's pretty much it. So, let's combine what we have learned and set the respawn time to 99999, kill any player who spawned mid-round, and delete the ammo pack they have just dropped. There is one more thing. Normally, you are allowed to change class for the first 20 seconds of sudden death. It even lets you respawn if you've died during the grace period. VScript, however, has no access to the function that initiates sudden death properly. Instead, we simply change the game state variable to the value corresponding to sudden death. This does not reset the 20-second timer, therefore the value of when sudden death has begun never gets set, which in C causes the variable to contain leftover memory garbage. Basically, it can be any value, while still not being a good randomizer, and VScript cannot access that variable either. This is the function that decides if you can respawn during sudden death. It checks if the current time value is smaller than the sudden death start time plus the grace period. To prevent people from respawning, this equation should return false, which we can't guarantee because the sudden death start time is random and outside of our control. But we can set this value to whatever we want. Is there a floating point value that will cause this equation to return false regardless of the other two values, even minus infinity? None. Stupid accent, I mean nan, not a number. Any arithmetic operation with none returns none, and any comparison against none returns false, which is precisely what we need. So, by setting this value, which is a console variable, to nan, we cause the game to compare the current time against nan, which will always return false, which prevents people from respawning. Finally, we've made a one-life game mode without the undesired side effects of Arena. You know, maybe I should have spent more time actually fixing Arena. So yeah, this was the first devlog of the new versus Saxton Hale. Subscribe for more upcoming devlogs and project announcements. I've also already made a retrospective on the 2010 original, which you can check on the end screen. See ya in casual.